to be here?
Yeah, very good.
Right there.
Thanks for coming along. So tell me a little bit about DriveClub, because the thing about this game is it's development. Is it 9 years now?
No,
I mean, that's a lot.
the idea has been around for 9 years. Basically, it's been in development since the very genesis of the PlayStation 4, and you know we're finally getting to a point where we can deliver the game because of the power of the hardware that we've got for us now.
Cool. So, I mean, tell me a bit about sort of the DriveClub Plus thing, because this was announced at the PS4 conference, and it's going to be given away to PlayStation Plus owners, right? What's the difference here between something you'd buy at retail and the DriveClub Plus?
When you buy the game at retail, you've got all the content on disc. You can buy it digitally as well, you can buy the full download, but as a PlayStation Plus subscriber, you get to experience DriveClub day one for free. So that means you get all the same game features, you can interact with all the social challenges, the online multiplayer, it's all there. The only thing we limit you on is the content of cars and tracks.
Right.
That's it. Otherwise, it's the full experience.
Okay. So, I mean, when you say limited in terms of cars and tracks, what are we talking about here? I mean, can you be specific about those some limitations?
Not at this point in time. I mean, you know, that'll be made clear over the next couple of months.
Okay, great stuff. So one of the things I want to talk to you about is PS4 development, actually, and you know, you guys are making this for the PS4. What is it that you were able to do for DriveClub with PS4 that perhaps you weren't able to get out of the PS3, either from a technology standpoint or from the software?
Well, everything's moved on since PlayStation 3, so ultimately the entire machine is set up around connectivity and socialization. On top of that as well, the Sony design pillars have actually asked us to try and fit with certain social features, and so we've actually gone out of our way to do that. On top of that as well, you know, there's some supreme graphical grunt behind this thing. You know, if you actually see DriveClub, you'll see real-time simulated clouds.
Yeah.
The time of day is accurately simulated, so you could play it, you know, 3:37 a.m. if you wanted to. Even the stars in the sky are accurate, so you can look out for your favourite constellation.
Yeah, and then you've got other features around that PlayStation 4, like the share button, which is just a fantastic way to show that perfect moment that just happened in DriveClub. Yeah. That drift, that crash, that overtake. And there's also the Vita with the remote play. So if your PS4's in use downstairs, you know, go up to your bedroom, fire up your Vita, carry on playing DriveClub.
And there's the streaming features as well.
Well, of course. I mean, it was amusing because I remember the sort of the first announcement for DriveClub, and I've never seen anyone so excited about hand-stitched leather before. I mean, I mean, you guys must be sort of, are you as passionate as that about this sort of stuff? I mean,
we're hardcore petrol heads, so I mean, you know, the attention to detail that's gone into these car models has never been seen before. Yeah. The lead vehicle artist, Neil, I go down and see him quite a bit because I'm a big car fan, and he was looking at a model a couple of weeks ago, rejecting it because the wrong size screw head was in the floor mat. That's how you know, fastidious he is.
It's that insane. I mean, every car on average has 250,000 polys per car.
Right.
It's just absolutely bonkers, and we want to make sure it's the completely accurate representation of the real world car.
Sure. I mean, one of the things that I've been asked, that attention level to detail is something that Polyphony Digital also does, and I know you've probably had this a lot, the comparisons to Gran Turismo, but I've got to ask, you know, I mean, are you worried about that in terms of your game? Because you come from an arcade background, but this strikes me as something that is much more simulation based and much more of a direct competitor.
Now, ultimately, they're complementary to one another. If you imagine that Gran Turismo is like a 106-piece orchestra, DriveClub is more like, you know, it's like going to see your favourite band in concert.
Yeah, that's a good analogy. It's one of the best I've heard.
And of course, whilst the game might look like a simulation, it's not. We're grounded in realism. The game's authentic, but it's a very accessible sort of pick-up-and-play handling model. So whilst it's got the depth and the detail there, it is going to be a bit more kind of fun and thrilling to race with.
So how are you accomplishing that then? I mean, because the balance between something that's arcade and simulation is really difficult. Is it going to be done with, say, driving aids or things like that?
It's actually, yeah, it's a really tricky balance to get, and not everyone gets it right. What we do with our car modelling is that we start from the ground up with all the manufacturers' real-world data, and that gives us the base for the handling. And then we layer on a number of elements that basically make it a lot more accessible, make it a lot more fun. But we don't want to take away that control. So it's not necessarily driving aids, but we are helping the player out a little bit, but not not too much to take away from the experience.
Okay, that sounds really cool. I mean, I know you spoke about some of the sharing stuff before, but I mean, what are you expecting people to share on this stuff? Because I mean, like with racing games, is it lap times? What sort of thing are you looking out for?
Well, we're going beyond just using the standard sharing things. Of course, there's a lot of hardware built around the PlayStation 4 to actually support immediate sharing of videos to YouTube, streaming your content live and the like. But on top of that, our challenge system allows you to share even the race that you've just done with everybody. And so, you might get thousands of people trying to beat your score. On top of that, in order to make it so that it's not just about winning, we have 2 new features. One's called face-offs and the other one's called overdrives. And what they are is just do, little asynchronous challenges between things that other people who you may be connected to have already done on the track. And you've got to try and sort of beat them, but they're always matched to your skill set, so that really works very well. And then you're rewarded for anything else that you do on the track. So you do a great drift or a donut or something like that, we'll give you more fame, so that you're always earning to feed into your club.
Yeah, and what's really great about that as well is that if you're not necessarily winning, if you're not first place, it doesn't really matter, because you're competing in these face-offs and these overdrives, and you're earning fame for yourself, for your club. And it's, it doesn't really matter if you're losing, because you're always winning if you're playing as part of a club nowadays.
So one of the other things as well is that, I guess, with a launch lineup, you must know this. Racing games are traditionally one of the key launch titles. I mean, when you see a launch, I'm surprised we haven't seen Ridge Racer yet, for instance, right?
I'm disappointed.
It's tradition for a Ridge Racer game, right? So, I mean, how do you guys feel about that? Because you've got a lot of competition now on the launch front. I mean, everyone was showing off racing games at their press conferences yesterday. I mean, what are you guys how do you feel about it?
Well, we don't do what the rest of them do. I mean, ultimately, we're building a service model around the game as well. So ultimately, when you buy the disc or you digitally download it, that's not the end of your experience. We're going to be feeding you fresh content every week, and there's going to be a broad scope of new content that we're going to be pushing your way. And we're going to be actually, tracking what's going on there to make sure that we can evolve the experience based on players' feedback. So all the time, the game is going to be evolving more and more to a point where it's just going to be a huge experience.
Yeah, it's important that DriveClub isn't static. We want to make sure that, as Cole said, it evolves over time. So based upon players' actions and what they're doing on a day-to-day sort of basis, we'll make sure we focus on the areas that players are having most fun with.
Cool. I mean, going back to the sort of PlayStation Plus stuff, your game being a brand new game, launch title, are you slightly apprehensive about it being given away for free to PlayStation Plus users?
This is the next generation, so we've got to move with the times, and this is the right way to do it.